Finn and I have taken a trip to Balls Bluff battlefield, Loudoun County, Virginia, just outside of Leesburg. It's such a tiny and compact battlefield. I think you really get a sense of the action that took place here. As we do this, if I have any lessons to impart besides the battle history, it's that early in the war, certainly in October of 1861, there was still an aura of glory and bravado about the war. Politicians and officers, really with the best intentions, wanted to carve out their share of it. That was spent in lives. Here at Balls Bluff, the bill for that bravery, bravado, and hubris was steep. A lot of good men died here, on that bluff, on that day. In fact, on this field, the only sitting U.S. Senator, Edward Baker, from Oregon, or at least he held the seat from Oregon, well, this is where he fell mortally wounded. Let's go take a look around.
The 8th Virginia was no joke. They fought from 1st Manassas, Seven Pines, Gaines Mill, 2nd Manassas, Sharpsburg, Antietam, Fredericksburg, Gettysburg, Cold Harbor, Sailor's Creek, Appomattox. They were the real deal. They fought from the first bullet to the last. And here, at Balls Bluff, this is their home turf again. This is the field that they crossed, fighting for Loudoun County, which is where companies A and E and H came from. Behind us is Leesburg. This is home. And they're not going to let any Yankees stand here. 1st Manassas to Appomattox. Such brave boys. And here I stand on Balls Bluff, where October 21st, 1861, Thomas Clinton Lovett Hatcher, the color bearer from the 8th Virginia, fell. And I'm just going to read this to you. 20 December 1839 to 21st October 1861, standing over 6 feet 4 and wearing a full red beard, Clinton Hatcher was a memorable figure. Despite his Quaker upbringing, he joined Company F of the 8th Virginia at the beginning of the war and became a regimental color bearer. This, combined with his height and notable beard, made him quite a target, and he was in fact killed during this battle. This memorial stone was placed here to honor his courage. Hatcher is not buried here, but rests in Ketocton Baptist Church Cemetery near Purcellville, Virginia, a few miles west of Leesburg. Here is the memorial stone, and there is the position of the 20th Massachusetts, who killed him, his face to the enemy.
The 20th Massachusetts Volunteer Infantry was no joke either. They were the Harvard Regiment, recruited out of the area of Boston. They had some notable people in there. Paul Revere's grandson was in the 20th Massachusetts. Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr., a Supreme Court justice, was in the 20th Massachusetts. They were some of the hardest fighting folks out there. They served at the West Woods. They were at the wall at Antietam, and this was their baptismal of fire. And over that tree line is where they stood and fought. And at this point, I'd just like to read from you the account of Brigadier General Evans, who commanded the 7th Brigade, CSA, which included the 8th Virginia. And it's just so sanitized, you know? Civil War combat is a grotesque and brutal thing. But let me read this to you. At about 10 o'clock, I became convinced that the main point of attack would be at Balls Bluff. I ordered Colonel Hunton with his regiment, the 8th Virginia Volunteers, to repair immediately to the battle, immediately in the rear of Colonel Jennifer's command, and to drive the enemy into the river. That I would support his right with artillery. At about 12:20 p.m., Colonel Hunton united his command with that of Colonel Jennifer, and both commands soon became hotly engaged with the enemy in their strong position in the woods. Watching carefully the action, I saw the enemy were constantly being reinforced, and at about 2:30 p.m. ordered Colonel Burt to march his regiment, the 18th Mississippi, and attack the left flank of the enemy concealed in a ravine, and was compelled to drive his regiment to stop the flank movement of the enemy. At this time, about 3 o'clock, finding the enemy were in large force, I ordered Colonel Featherstone with his regiment, the 17th Mississippi, to repair at a double quick to the support of Colonel Burt, where he arrived in 20 minutes, and the action became general along my whole line, and was very hot and brisk for more than 2 hours, the enemy keeping up a constant fire with his batteries on both sides of the river. At about 6 o'clock, I saw that my command had driven the enemy near the banks of the Potomac. I ordered my entire force to charge, and to drive him into the river. The charge was immediately made by the whole command, and the forces of the enemy were completely routed, and cried out for quarter along his whole line. In this charge, the enemy were driven back at the point of the bayonet. And they were driven down the ravine, and they were driven down Balls Bluff, and they were crowded against the banks of the Potomac, where some were shot, some tried to escape, and drowned as they tried to cross the Potomac. Some surrendered. But this was Civil War combat. This is it. The 8th Virginia and the 20th Massachusetts standing yards from each other and thinking, can I fire before they do? Can I hit them before they hit me? Can I punch harder than they can punch? And can I stand longer than they can stand? For the 8th Virginia, on this day, October 21st, 1861, yes, they could. And then fought the entirety of the war. For the 20th Massachusetts, they could not stand this day, but they lived to fight another. And the lives that were lost for what? For glory? I don't know. For country? I don't know. But along the banks of the Potomac here, for these men in this cemetery, there was no glory. There was just a cold, quiet grave in Virginia. In this cemetery, there is only one known, the others only to God. And I'd like to read to you from the report of Lieutenant Colonel Francis Winthrop of the 20th Massachusetts Volunteer Infantry. And he writes, his regiment was soon attacked by the enemy, who outnumbered them greatly. The attack continued to be made in intervals, and most of the fighting was in the afternoon. They were severely treated, and the following is the assault as nearly as I can state it. Missing Colonel Lee, Major Revere, Adjutant Pearson, Assistant Sergeant Revere, and First Lieutenant George B. Perry believed to be prisoners. First Lieutenant Bebeau and Second Lieutenant Weiselhoff believed to be drowned. Wounded in this camp, Captain Dreyer shot through the head from cheek to cheek, recovery possible. Captain J.C. Putman, right arm taken off at the socket, doing well. First Lieutenant O.W. Holmes shot through the chest from side to side, doing well. Captain Schmidt shot 3 times through the leg and through the small of the back from side to side, doing well. First Lieutenant J.J. Lowell shot in the leg, not serious, and Second Lieutenant Putman was shot in the bowels and died in this camp yesterday. His body was sent to Boston on this morning. Our loss in killed and wounded and missing of non-commissioned officers and privates is reported as 147, of whom 45 are at this camp, and most of them will recover. The other wounded are believed to be taken prisoners. Thank you for watching. I think I'm supposed to ask you to like and subscribe, so please do. Also feel free to follow us on Instagram. I welcome any comments you have. Thanks again.